actually was in the area. And so,
Yeah.
all right, yeah, let's get this guy real close. All right, so here we are, everybody. We're on another episode of the Mind Body Marathon, and on the episode we have old regular Zach Goulet.
I'm back again.
And Kyle Basista.
Yeah.
So current coach over at where? Harvard, Princeton, where you at?
You can't say those names. Yale.
Formerly at John Carroll.
Yep.
Yeah. So how long you been at Yale?
Not even a year.
Oh my gosh.
A year in August. So
coming
it's been definitely a year that kind of flown by and kind of crazy. So
Yeah.
I even say that in the recruiting process too. I'm like trying to walk that through. I'm like, all right, here's what I know so far, and I'm trying to build something. So
Yeah. All right. So do you like it there?
yeah, I mean, it's different. Growing up in Northeast Ohio, literally turned 40 this year. So
Where did you go to high school?
Elyria Catholic on the west side.
EC.
You don't hear about it too often, but
Not much anymore after you graduated.
Wow. No, they actually had better years after I graduated. So so West Sider and East Coast is different, but I think each week, each month, definitely starting to acclimate.
Yeah, that's cool. Now, how did you guys turn out in the track season? How's the track season for you?
I gotta be careful how I answer this. Good and bad. I think we're trying to build a complete track and field program at Yale. So I'm not their director. I just do the mid distance and distance. So I feel like we had a pretty good end to the outdoor season and had 3 regional qualifiers, which at this level is not easy, and definitely learned a lot.
Was I can't believe I don't know this or we didn't talk about this, but was Yale did Yale have like a specific kind of like discipline before the new coach and you guys came in?
I mean, really, one of the reasons that attracted it was honestly probably the mid distance distance was the strongest. And I'm like, all right, I didn't want to go to a place because we were already pretty good at John Carroll that I have to total rebuild. That it wouldn't make sense. I don't even care if it was Division I, and so I'm like, we're already pretty good and we can build upon this.
Yeah.
What do you think? Was it relative to John Carroll? Like, is it more intense? Like the recruiting? What's it like?
It's similar but different. I think one of the things is like, Ivy League. You think I'm like, I get there first practice and first week, and I'm like, this is eerily similar. I'm like 18 to 22-year-olds or 18 to 22-year-olds. I think one of the things too. I mean, Ivy League, it's very similar to Division III. Like no one is on athletic scholarship, so they're doing it for the same reasons. We're just at a higher level and trying to achieve a higher level. Obviously they have to balance the academics. And one of the things is just trying to figure out what's going to work in this place, in this system, right? So that John Carroll for so long, we didn't have success right away. It took time. And, our athletic facilities are a little bit away from our academic campus. And so just trying to figure out that balance and the efficiencies for sure.
Now, what's the training like there? Like in terms of like the trails and indoor outdoor track, like what's the facilities and training environment like?
Yeah. And we were talking a little about the topography and stuff, and being surprisingly rocky in some points, but we have a little bit, I always say it's the same thing as similar to John Carroll. Like it's not this training mecca, we have a lot of pavement, but again, one of the other reasons is we have some great new facilities. We're one of 2 Ivy League programs that can host outdoor.
Nice.
Just us in Princeton. And then we have a beautiful kind of historic indoor field house that has a 200 meter bank track. It's only 4 lanes, so we don't host a ton. Yeah, but it's still pretty fast and pretty cool. Yeah. We currently don't have a cross course. I guess historically they did on the golf course, but they're renovating that, and we don't know if they're putting a lot of money into that if we want to do that. And there's a little bit of some trails that are accessible. And for me, that was like right away, like what can we access that's close? And there's a decent amount in 15, 20 minutes.
You got some good hills in that part of Connecticut too. I was out there a couple months ago for a funeral, and I went for a run, and I just remember I was just climbing up this like this Connecticut quintessential hill, and I was like, this thing just never ends. Never ends.
Yeah, it's surprisingly hilly.
It is.
We're on the coast. New Haven's on the coast. But I mean, just you can take 5 to 10 miles and you're in it.
Yeah.
And within an hour, I've been to the Appalachian Trail and, going up and down that. So
Yeah, that's nice.
So when did you realize you wanted to go into coaching?
this is always the $1 million question. I think for me, all right, long story here a little bit, but I went 5 years at Mount Union. I was on that plan. And I always say one of the things is when I went to Yale, I'm like, 18, 22-year-old self never would have thought I'd be at a place like this.
Yeah.
Because I graduated with the bare minimum credit at Mount Union. You needed 120 in 4 years. I had 120 in 5. And I got I was pretty into the sport, and I was like, all right, it was kind of one of those things where I'm like, I'm not good enough to keep doing this. What can I do? And honestly, 5 years, I had no plan. Our coach at the time, John Homan, we didn't really have an assistant at all. And I'm like, hey, can I kind of stick around? I don't really have anything else planned. And kind of that was the start, and really enjoyed it. And one of the things is I couldn't see myself doing anything else.
Yeah.
Kyle recruited me heavily.
Yeah, we've talked about this.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, he was actually the one. And to be frank, I just didn't want to go to Mountain Union because I didn't want to go to Mountain Union. That was the only was really the only sole thing. But yeah, and it worked out because then you left, I think, the year.
Yeah, you made the right move.
Yeah,
yeah.
and then truly, I probably would have been maybe better under you. I loved my time at Akron, and what LeBay did for me psychologically was incredible. But I think looking back on it now, it would have probably been a better fit.
You mean the training methodologies and all that?
Yeah, I mean, I was just so injury prone. I was just so injured, but I couldn't have gotten into John Carroll.
So
because of my grades too.
So what do you mean by that? His coaching philosophy and training styles and stuff?
Yeah.
What would you say about it? How would you categorize it?
Oh God.
I want to hear it from you, because this is the number one recruits. What's your coaching philosophy?
I know,
I'm
right?
I could talk an hour, and I'm I don't even know, So I like to hear it from you really need to talk to our guys and the kids and stuff
that's partly. I mean, that says a lot about you, that it's not some thing that you're trying to work on everybody. It's not a standardized thing, and you're just trying to adapt with the athlete.
I mean, I think that's it right there. Is that my time. So for people that are listening, I'm the massage therapist at John Carroll, and it was because of Kyle and his dad to be able to get me on there and for me to be able to stay. But having my time there, the culture that you created and the belief and the excitement is very transcendent. And when recruits walk in, it's very. I mean, it can be very intoxicating. And I think the number one thing that I noticed was that you have a general idea and a general plan, but you're really good at grouping the right people for those right workouts together. So it's individualized in a large scale team effort. So people are kind of working on those weaknesses on those types of workouts that aren't good or can handle that, or vice versa. It's just very, very adaptable.
Well, from my perspective, what's interesting is I feel some of the great coaches over the years that I've come across, whether they're at high school or college or professional, it's more about managing a person rather than being a genius with sports science stuff. And your calm, demeanor and just chill demeanor. Yeah. I feel and just laid back kind of surfer boy kind of vibe. Yeah. I think honestly, helps out quite a bit.
Yeah.
And, because a lot of coaches that are overly angst and overly drawn into the sports science side of it can almost be too gripping and too strangle the life out of the sport.
Well, I think that came a little bit out of, I don't think I was always like that.
Okay.
I think one of the things for me, I was super curious. I felt as an athlete, as a runner, I felt I could have been a lot better in so many areas. And, one of the funny things that, if you would tell this to someone today, through high school and college, I never did a organized tempo run, never. And, I knew that was a part of component. And for me, I bought every book. I was printing out Google articles. I was going to clinics to try to figure it out. And stage one was let's figure out the training principles. Yeah. And then you start an experiment with that and see what works, what doesn't. And then it got to a point where it's all right, I generally know this, but there's this whole other side. And I think once you dive into that, that's where you really can start to have meaningful impacts and success.
But athletes are coming in with, so much data and so much information. There's so much transparency about what, the training styles of Jakob and the training styles of all these different athletes. And then everybody sort of knows what's happening. And then, the kids come in with a lot of their own opinions on things. And that's got to be a frustrating scenario. But I also think that like focusing on just motivation and focusing on like inspiration and just learning how to manage the whole component of each athlete just to get them to that next level. I think that's like really the secret of coaching, to like almost pull away from, because it's almost like interesting. Like if you talk to a lot of professionals now, the training is almost more boring than ever. Like it's just basically tempo and hills now and volume. And it's like, there's nothing really that fascinating about it. They just kind of hone in on a couple things and create good traction on that. But it's like, why do certain people run for other coaches? It's like basically they know how to manage them and they know how to inspire them and motivate them.
Yeah, no, for sure. And it's, I always say like, it has to be tough to be a college or be a high school college runner right now. The access, the amount of information, knowing, myself at that point, all we had was like, let's run and let's run. And so one of the things I was thinking about, it's like, we're in this golden age, I think, of distance running, and definitely in America, from the high school to college professional, the impact and what you're seeing. And I don't think what these kids understand is like, when you hear about Jakob or you hear about this program or this individual, you're like, oh my gosh, this is the secret. Well, guess what? They've been doing that 2, 3, 4 years.
Well, the other thing too is like, you would never like, if you could somehow see LeBron James's workouts right now or Steph Curry, you would never have a high school kid do that because they didn't put in the thousands of hours of shooting prior to that. And so like what they do for workout now is markedly different than what used to do now versus like, relative to like high school versus professional. So it's hard to kind of work your way back and understand and parse that out and understand that like you're just genuinely not ready for that.
Yeah. I mean, I told, and I think speaking off what Zach said earlier, like I like the development piece and just the elemental piece of like, let's just nail the basics. And that's not sexy. That's not going to get you immediate results, but like we have to be consistent. And I think one of the things I came in and realized pretty quickly at Yale was, very type A, right? Obviously. And like, they want to be good. They've had some success. And I don't think one of the things for me as coaching is we can't dictate outcomes per se. I think we can get into it if you want, but I'm not super goal oriented because I'm like, I don't have a crystal ball. Like, I don't know what you can or can't do. I also don't want to limit anyone, but I think when they put this thing out there, they start to go towards that. And I'm like, how do you know that's the right thing? Are you ready for that? So I'm like, to me, from a training perspective, is like, let's gradually do more every week, every month. And we get to this point, you're going to be able to do it. So I'm always like, it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. When that is, I don't know. We just got to keep putting in the work.
I know. I say to my stepkids all the time because they always want to like shot call things. They're always gonna be like, oh, I'm gonna make it in the NBA or like I'm gonna win state. And you're like, why did you have to do that? Like, I think it's good to have goals, but like just be a high school kid. Like just do your thing and then just see how good you can get. Like you don't have to like put this thing out in the ether and then all of a sudden if you don't do it, you crash and burn. And it's panic mode because you realize like you're like you overextended yourself in a sense. It's like just kind of like, see how good you can get and just have fun with it, really.
Well, I think that the best are like true passionate about it, right? I think you see it in every sport, and Scotty Scheffler's big right now, and he just has a true passion. He doesn't, I mean, he says he doesn't care if he wins or loses. Obviously, he's a competitor, but if you're not passionate, it's going to be hard to go through those lulls and the ups and downs.
He also likes to make fun of himself because have you guys seen Happy Gilmore 2 yet?
No, I haven't yet.
I want to know your thoughts because I was a little disappointed.
Totally disappointed. Yeah. So my wife was in it. She's she's in 2 scenes. Yeah. She was there for about 2 weeks it was filmed at a golf course in New Jersey, and she was there for about 2 weeks in total. And then she really just made kind of some quick little clips in the background. But she she was telling me like some of the secrets of behind the scenes stuff. And she's like, she just kept saying there's a lot of really good pro golfers here. And she didn't realize one day she was talking to Bad Bunny. Like she didn't even realize that was Bad Bunny.
I wouldn't have known either.
Yeah. And it's crazy. He's like
Wow.
one of the top musicians in the world right now. And
He was
he's
in
just
that
chilling.
movie?
Yeah, he's his caddy. Bad Bunny's his
Bad
caddy.
Bunny's his cat.
Yeah. And then Eminem's in it.
Like
And that's one of my criticisms. I feel like he just wanted to like pay homage to the first film almost too much, and it wasn't creative enough. And then secondarily, he almost just wanted to fit in all these celebrities almost too much, instead of it just having these weird original characters that like was really one of the hallmarks of the first film. And then there was a couple scenes that like I genuinely laughed out loud, but only a couple.
Yep. Totally agree. Me and my brother watched it and we're like, see, but I'm curious to see like generationally, right? Like I feel like our generation was like super disappointing, but like, well, the current one's like, oh, that was sick. Like,
dude, that Bad Bunny scene was so hilarious.
There was the scene where they all start kicking the car to get it to start.
Yeah.
And then
John Daly.
Not John Daly, the other guy.
Oh, the dude
Buscemi.
Yeah, the
comes
neighbor.
Over and he starts kicking the car and like, hey man, what are you doing? What are you doing kicking our dad's car? And then they start, and then he does the dance, and then they get all like freaked out by it. Like that scene got me.
Yeah,
like,
there was a few moments,
but that was like old school, like Adam Sandler right there.
Yeah,
that's funny. Yeah, no, I haven't seen it yet, so I'll be genuinely curious to see how it turns out.
So we got USA's coming up this weekend. What do you guys think about it?
Gosh, I've been so far out of the loop.
This is such a weird USA's this year because there's so many good runners.
There's so many good runners, and then I feel like there's oddly some out of it, and you're trying to keep up with or who has the standard and all this stuff. It's gonna be a crapshoot. Like I think it's gonna be exciting. One of the better USA's. And you could say I think in the four before you could say on either men's or women's side, like this is the best event, and I'm like you think about an event and you're like, all right, then there's this other one, and like they're the best in the world right now.
Yeah, it's interesting because by the time this episode airs, it'll be after USA, so it'll be interesting. But I think you're right. Like, there's a lot of events where you can be like, yeah, I mean, for sure, these 2 or 3 people are going to make it, and I really don't feel confident saying that for any event outside of maybe like Grant and and maybe like Nagoose or something like
Nagoose,
that. Like that's about it.
And
like
shot
literally, that's and shot put. Pretty much everybody else is like, oh my god, I mean, it could go, even Moon, she's gonna have to work hard to make it. Like there's a lot of open events. So
like you could say on paper for the men at least, like the 1500 is the best, but I'm like the 800 could be the best squad. Yeah. And to your point, I don't know who's gonna make it.
Yeah, right. I mean, I've been so far out of the loop just doing other projects in my life, but like how's like Bryce and like Hoey.
Well, Josh has the second fastest 800 ever in the U.S. history now, right? And
and Donovan is back in it too.
Yeah,
I forgot about him. So
and who knows how he'll do with the rounds because he's gone 143.
Right.
Bryce looks kind of like Bryce, but then you got the kid from Texas A&M, the tall kid. What's his name again?
Whiteman. No, not Whiteman. Not
Yeah, he looked really good.
W.
Oh yeah, that's right. That one outdoor.
Yeah, he looks super solid. So yeah, it's going to be interesting. So what do you think of the state of track and field right now?
I think a lot of people are going to say like it's in a good place, but like I still don't think it's in a great place.
It's hanging on by threads.
Yeah, like they're trying to make it like at the end of the day, like we're just never going to be as popular as these other sports. Like, obviously Grand Slam, we know what's kind of going on with that. And they're trying to create this narrative. And in the US, at least, right, we have all these other things. And especially in this society, like, I think we can do some things to make it better.
Yeah.
But, I think we're trying to make it something it's not, too.
What are some ways that we can make it into something that it's not currently at?
That's a good question.
That's a great question. I think at the college level, and it's more coming from the Power Four, is they're trying to make it this team component. I don't.
Do you think that's a good thing?
I think it's going to take away from a lot of what track and field has been at the collegiate level, and it's going to lead out a lot of mid majors, and honestly, selfishly, even some of the Ivies. I think part of it, and I know Joe was on here, is like the travel is crazy, and like the chasing marks is crazy.
Yeah.
And we have to do a little bit better with that.
I just change chasing standards.
Yeah. I do think like that lost art of competing. Is in Grand Slam was good for that. How do you navigate the financial aspect of it.
Right.
But one of the things I don't like being in D1 so far was seeing the regional and national system of, and I know why they did it. The television rights to go men one day, women next day, men one day.
Yeah.
At nationals watching it, like I'm like, I'm done after like 2 or 3 days.
Yeah.
Like 4 days of track. Like,
yeah,
It's a lot.
yeah.
It's a lot.
And I'm a huge fan.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's I think that's like the really like interesting thing about the state of like endurance athletics in general is like I would even put in there too. I think Netflix is kind of helping it out as well with these docuseries, but it's only going to help for a little bit because then everyone's like curiosity and excitement. Like I think we're seeing attendance up, but I also think it's because we get that intimate view of like Shaqiri and with Noah, and like they want to see those people in person. And I think attendance was up at pre.
but I think attendance is going to be like down for like
Yeah.
trials and things
That's
like
what
that because they're too long of the
That-
meet. I mean, it's almost
and
it's
that's
a
my
10-day
point.
meet.
Yeah, I mean, like you look at the tour and like the last like 2 seasons of that docuseries, it was up, but now they're canceling they're done after this last season, and it's just like people realize like, oh, it's the Tour de France. It's like a 21 day.
It's kind of like it's kind of like the NBA where there's not a lot of viewers over a 7-game series, but the NBA dominates social media.
Mm-hmm.
And I think track and field is that. It's like it's a very social media driven thing because you can quickly just plug in and see the 100 and plug out, or you can see the kick and the 1500, and you maybe don't watch the rounds or even care about those. And so it's like it's a sport where which is good because social media is the name of the game moving forward. But it's also like in terms of like getting butts in the seats, it's probably not the greatest, and that's why the Diamond League probably still is going to dominate because they just put on an afternoon and just go. It's like you go to Amsterdam or Monaco and it's like an afternoon meet, and
you're there for a couple hours.
That's it. It's not this crazy long thing, and
right.
So
well, I think part of the US too is like how many you look at the Diamond League in Europe and like those stadiums are perfect for our sport, right? Like besides London, which I know is one of the biggest ones, Monaco, the stadium or facility isn't huge.
Yeah.
And we can only have it probably in so many facilities in the US.
That's true.
And one being Eugene, which we know is hard to get to and is expensive. So that's part of it. Is we're not manufactured either to support it.
Yeah, that is true. I mean, and our country's so big that, you create stadiums, but then it's going to suit this discipline compared to this. I mean, you go out to Sacramento and it's like, distance runners don't want to go out there and run 5Ks, 10Ks, but.
So what exactly happened with Grand Slam?
I was listening to a podcast earlier, and essentially they just don't have the money to support it, whether they didn't ever or they lost. I think they lost a big investor. But like one of the things is a lot of the athletes, if not, haven't been paid their earnings from winning, or so they're strapped for cash.
It's probably not going to go again next year.
They're looking to like reorganize supposedly from Michael Johnson, what he's saying that they're trying to restructure and reorganize to, they made the decision to pull the plug so they could come back better next year. And it's like, what can you do better?
The odds are not in their favor right now.
It doesn't seem
that's
like
for sure.
Yeah, because all the big names are going to be like very skeptical to come back.
Just, I mean, it's just like Firefest,
Wait, what's that?
It's that this like guy was gonna make this like sweet like music festival in like the Bahamas, and he promised like all this crazy stuff, and then they get there, like the stage isn't built yet, the city isn't built. They have these triage tents with like crap sandwiches and like whatever else.
It's like Woodstock all over again.
But they just conned everyone. Like they didn't. They're like they had this product that just didn't exist. Like there was no accommodations. Like
and then he gets caught and I think he served a little bit of jail time too. And then like last year he's like, Firefest 2's coming back. No, it's not. It's not.
Oh man. Yeah. Well, I guess there is a lot of like charlatans in the sport that are going to want to sort of do things like that. But I mean, I think that if you look at parts of running that are really getting more popular, it is, ultras are going up. I think unique running events are going up in terms of like how to organize things. And I think people are just kind of, bored with the old hat and just interested in new things. I was even talking with Dylan Dombey about this, and he was talking about doing for next year, maybe doing some event where you see how many times you can break a mile, or break 5 minutes in a mile, how many hours in a day you can do that. So like, at the start of the hour, like break 5 minutes in the mile, and then just wait to the next hour and just see if you can do that for 24 hours.
That's brutal.
And I'm
man.
like, that is actually a really cool event. And I think just unique things like that are just appealing to people now.
Yeah.
I think with our attention spans, like we don't want this same old thing over and over again. We want these extremes, and that's kind of what sells. And what's the one in California? Is it Badwater? What's the one
where you went from Death Valley to Mount Whitney?
No, what's the one that's
Western States?
Western States.
Yeah.
Like that one was like crazy this year in terms of like the attention and the live feed. And I think those one-off things are like kind of the future.
Well, they've gotten better about being able to document it with the drones and all that sort of stuff too. And so, but yeah, it's like it's events like that are more mic drop and more kind of cocktail party sort of conversations than, I ran a really fast 5K or whatever. It's like, okay, well, a lot of people have done that. But if you're like, yeah, dude, I ran 100 miles, it's like, oh my God, like that's insane. That? It's just so much more intriguing to people to just say stuff like that.
And it's inclusive to so many individuals.
Yeah, well, I always joke, long is the new fast. Anybody can go long, but fast requires, a certain amount of like skill and
time,
genetics, genetics, honestly. So
that is true.
Do you still run?
Not really.
No. Once in a while.
Once in a blue moon. Like I feel like this has been going on for like a decade. It's like, all right, summer comes, trying to shed some pounds, and I'm a very a lot of my past athletes I'm very obsessive, like all in, all out kind of person. And when I shifted towards coaching, it was like coaching. And I always said this too, if I wasn't in coaching, I probably would still be an avid runner. Just because that's where like my time focus goes.
Yeah.
Again, it's not a legitimate excuse. There's times in the day I just don't prioritize it. And you go, like, one of the things too is that I found about myself is how I found the sport is like, I love the competition aspect and like the amount of time that would take to continue that. Like I've done, one of the things is I've done marathons up no training. I just like to do random things. So it's gonna be hard, and it doesn't take time for me to do them.
That is the story of my life right now.
I'm following you. Like it's more fun that way because like, that you don't want to. You don't have the time.
Well, and it's a challenge though.
Yeah.
Like if you're gonna train hard and run an all-out 5K, that's a challenge. If you're gonna not train and run a marathon, that's a challenge. Like it's still just the challenge.
That's what it's all about. Like pushing yourself and seeing what you can do, and a challenge is the challenge.
Yeah.
So what would you say is the one of the highlights up to this point of your coaching career?
Oh man, that's a big one. Highlight. I would say probably this. So, I was at a total for John Carroll for 15 years.
Jesus, that long?
Yeah, 5 as assistant under Dare Ford, and then 10 years as head coach.
Wow.
And I should probably get the year right. 2021 was kind of the culmination. I feel like a lot of that work. Our men were in the podium at the national championships, 4th, and it was one of those things where like I didn't really talk about, but I think that group did, and that was like a big goal for them. And it kind of hit me like after, and as the text started coming in, and Alex won individually that year, and I was like, I'm hearing from all these alumni, and I'm like, wow, like this is truly like the fruits of the labor, like
and
all
the culture.
and all that work finally like kind of paid off sort of moment. It's hard to probably, nail one, but if I had to, like that was probably, and like I can vividly like remember, every scene from that. So
it's pretty sweet.
Yeah, and what I remember hearing about from the sidelines kind of leading up to those seasons was just the culture that you built, just the whole attitude of everything. There was just such a sense of excellence. And when high school kids were talking about being recruited, good ones would be like talking about some Ohio schools or Division I schools, and then all of a sudden they'd be like, yeah, and I'm thinking about John Carroll as well. And it's like they just threw that in there, and I was like, that is so cool that you like cracked into that, because like that made me remind me of my like Malone years where we were getting state champions, we were getting high caliber kids, and it was NAI, and it wasn't Division I, so it was cool.
No, it was definitely cool to see again that, and have the ability to go after those kinds of athletes and then recognize and have a chance, as a small Division III school. I lost my thought. I was going to say something after that.
But it feels cool from the athlete's perspective because it's like, you know, you guys go to All Ohio and you compete against the big schools and it's like a David and Goliath feel, you know, and it there's something like fun about that on being like on the small guy squad sort of thing.
Oh, and that's like one of the things that I never want to lose. I even said at Yale, because, you know, we're not winning things. I'm like, I'm a huge chip on the shoulder.
Yeah.
Like, you've never arrived. Like, you know, I don't care what you can find a way to create that narrative. And one of the things you talk about, like excellence, this is what reminded me, and Zach could probably back me up on, is like in those years we were really successful. Like the season never started out like, I'm like, something always happened. I'm like, all right, like we always had to overcome some sort of adversity. And I feel like that's a big part of being successful is when things go smoothly, you tend to get complacent or you lose focus. And so I think when you always have to, when things aren't great, you kind of dial down and, you know, you really hyper focus in those moments.
Yeah. And with that being said, like almost nothing goes perfect.
No.
And if it does, if a season's going smooth, like beware, like, cause it's probably going to happen at nationals or regionals or something. Like you just got to be, you know, you just got to always be on your toes.
Cracks me up about like you, Kyle, being at like John Carroll for 15 years and now at Yale, because like you said at the beginning, like very type A personalities. And like, it's like you're almost like thrown into those like scenarios because, you know, like you said at Mountain Union, like it took me 5 years to get that. And it's like when I started at John Carroll, the difference between my time at Akron to John Carroll is that they know almost what they want to do during their time at John Carroll. And I'm sure it's the same thing at Yale. Like, I'm going to be a microbiologist with a concentration in environmental conservant. And you're like, I was just like trying to figure it out that by this time. But what makes you so great for that role is that you're like no bullshit sometimes. And like one of my favorite things was like, I think it was either at OACs or at regionals. And you're like, yeah, you know, the guys got out great and they like put themselves in position. But then the girls, I was sitting there like, what the heck are you guys doing? And it's just like, you don't bullshit. And like, there is maybe some like colorful language in there that I'm not going to say, but like you bring a sense of realism to, I think, some of those athletes that go to those types of schools of like you can dissect it as much as you want and you can like analyze it and look at the data, but maybe you just didn't have it that day. Maybe you need to figure it out. Like it's not like always like A's and B's and this X's and O. It's like maybe you just didn't, like maybe you just sucked.
Well, I think Leo's like talked about this before too. Like we're in this feel good society, and I'm like I'll tell him like I'm always gonna be honest. Like you might not always like what I want to hear, and if I am critical or harsh, like I'm gonna come back and maybe not that moment, but a day later and tell you why I was. And kids just they want to know that you care, but they also want to know that you're truthful. You know, because they have the BS detectors, and that's one of the things that I hope I never lose is that honesty and that's how you form a relationship and trust as well. So
there's no that's not gonna happen with you.
Have athletes changed over the years in terms of like their demeanor, their attention span, their interest in the sport, injuries?
Yes and no. I think there's a lot of factors that go behind that. You know, I'm going to go with the popular answer in terms of like the change and say, right, like kind of the parents and the developmental system. So when they're coming in, that's a little bit different. Injuries, yes. Like I'm confused on injuries right now because we have more data, we have more technology, the shoes are better. I feel like at points when I got to John Carroll and we weren't as good, you know, we had guys running, you know, 80, 90 miles a week. And I don't even have guys doing that now and they're getting hurt. And it's like, you know, what's going on?
Yeah. Well, you can see that because in the 70s and 80s, guys were hammering crazy volumes and the shoes were obviously terrible. And not getting as injured. And when I first went to Malone, it was as a freshman, you ran 70, sophomore 80, 90, and 100. So if you're a senior, you ran 100. And it was non-negotiable. Like you just did it and you just ran the mileage. And if you couldn't, like, it was just a confusing thought. Like, what do you mean you're not going to run 70 miles as a freshman? Like,
so way to put somebody in the shambles.
I know. Like, and so they could do it back then because it was just like everybody would man up or woman up. But it was also like more than likely you can handle the volume, but like now you just cannot even come close to that same mindset. And I, there's a lot of different theories as to why that's the case, but injuries are going up like crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I mean, the shoes, like I'm more of a minimalist. Zach will kind of tell you. I mean, even like I need to feel my foot hitting the ground.
Yeah.
Like the first time I put on, and this isn't like a knock at Hoka, like I got a free pair and I was like, my knee hurt after that. And I'm like, you put on the foam, and I'm like, I have like less stability.
Yeah.
Like this, how does this make sense? I'm like, how do you guys run in this? And the thing is, you need a balance, right? Like you need that. You also have to do stuff barefoot. You have to do stuff in spikes. Like when I say flats now, like there's no things flats don't exist anymore. Like I think Streak LT.
Yeah.
I'm like, let's look at those out there. And like, no, we have the super shoes. And I'm like, oh, do you really want to wear the super shoes?
I think you're starting to see it come back around, not with everybody, because I think like your general population, like hobby jogger, party pace people, they want all that stuff. They get sold on that. But I was talking to somebody, and I think Asics is going back to like 4 or 5 models before. I can't remember what shoe. It's like one that they released in like 2013, 2014, because people were just like, why? That was like the perfect one. It was like the great balance. And so now I think they're starting to listen, and they're starting to slowly, very, very slowly go back to some of those old traditional.
And I'm trying to think just like to answer your question more on the why. And I don't like, there's got to be more stress and anxiety, I think, like, or those cortisol levels are going up because like, you feel like we know a lot more, and I think they are sleeping more. I think they're drinking less alcohol, to be honest with you, versus, my time and all those things. And it's like, there's something culturally or something happening there for sure.
Yeah. I mean, in a weird way, like I think, and I kind of alluded to this earlier with my stepkids, there's in a weird way, like less of an emphasis to be a kid and just to naturally like, I mean, I was running like 20 miles a week in high school and, messing around and beating up my teammates and joking around, always pulling pranks. And then I got to college and I was like, oh crap, this is like definitely way more serious. And it's like, I never would have thought I would have hated to take it so much more serious in high school and be so much more driven like that. And it's like, yeah, like I probably, could have succeeded a little bit more with stuff. But also I look back at my high school years and I can tell a lot of funny stories that a lot of kids that can't. And so yeah, you're probably right. The anxiety component is definitely there. And I think, general nutrition and lifestyle factors probably aren't the greatest either. And that's probably playing a huge role with injuries as well. But I would say that the overall anxiety is markedly higher for sure.
Gotta put down those phones, man. Those phones just destroy everybody.
Comparing yourselves to everything and just
well, and like you talked to one of the kids at John Carroll, and like kids will even tell you too. I mean, a lot of the athletes they'll say like, I'm addicted to my phone. Like I'm addicted to my phone. Like I can't put it down. And they know it, but they're on it. They're scrolling. They're looking at everything.
Let's throw names out there, Zach. Jamie Daly, current assistant coach at John Carroll that that it was also an athlete is like there was one Lent or whatever, right? We're Catholic Jesuit school at John Carroll, and not everyone is, but they're gonna give something up, and he's like, I'm like, oh, you should give up social media. He goes, I would die.
Yeah.
And I was like, you would literally die. Yeah. And he goes, yeah. I'm like, that's a problem.
That's like an addiction.
I was like, are you kidding me? And I'm just like, of course, he's one of our better athletes too, but I'm like, that kind of like mindset is like so ingrained in who they are in their day to day. So
well, and now like there was that study that came out that you lose, or they found that there was a correlation to like loss strength because of energy expenditure while looking at a smartphone for like a half hour. So they gave these two groups. One group watched a documentary for a half hour after doing a lift, and then the other group had to scroll and interact on social media. And the social media group came back with less reps and more fatigue than the group that watched a documentary.
Well, I mean, even if there are positive things on social media, when you start to see the personal stuff, a lot of us will have this mindset of like, oh, well, like people get jealous and people get like want to start comparing themselves. And you know, like you were saying, like there are studies out there that show like 1 rep max or running harder and all that. Like if you write in a journal about being grateful for something, then you actually can run harder or you can push more weight. But if you write in a journal about things that you're frustrated with, you will actually literally do the opposite. And then if you're scrolling on social media and that's like working into your subconscious about like so and so's got a perfect life, they're in Europe, they're doing this, they're doing all these things, and they're running this pace and they're running this fast, and then you get like that starts to work into your subconscious and as a negative thing.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden you're more pressured about what's happening around you, then that's just you're just not going to react
Yeah.
well.
That's why I would like to see more of like the, you know, even though it kind of sucks for the sport, but like I got a lot of my Tour de France information off of social media, like the last little sprints and like the last little climbs and the wins. I was like, oh, sweet. Wow, that guy like really hammered that last little bit there. And I was like, all right, off. And because I know I'm not going to be relevant in any of that.
It's hard to decipher, right? Because I think in one way, like comparison is a bad thing, right? Because if someone is better than you, like that's what I want to achieve. But how we navigate that is so tough.
But think about like back in when you were in high school and stuff in college, it's like you were in your camp and your camp had a culture and it was very insular and you guys like all believed in each other and you all worked hard and you thought what you were doing was the absolute right thing and the best thing. And you didn't second guess it. And our coach knows what he's doing. He or she knows what they're doing. And then all of a sudden you go to nationals and then you see what happens. Right. And then you don't go, and then you're in the middle of the national meet and you don't know what your competitor next to you did miles per week. So like say you were running 60 miles a week, but your competitor right next to you was running 80 miles a week. That doesn't work into your subconscious because you literally didn't know that.
Yep.
And so you just competed as if you were just both in the alley fight together and you have no idea what kind of training they had in the past. Now all of a sudden you're going wire to wire with somebody, and then you saw on social media 2 weeks ago that they had a 100-mile week, and then you're like, oh, there's no way I can compete with that. Like I only ran 80 miles that week, and then all of a sudden you're kicking, and then you start doubting yourself. Like those kind of things work into your subconscious, and I don't even know how any athlete would be able to get away from that. You know, like how,
injuries
like
and anxiety.
You know what I mean? Like how you would pull psychologically away from that and not let it affect you. And then you have to really know like how to stay in your lane and to trust the process. And like you've got to, it takes a very specific, unique, confident person to do that.
Well, I think that part of it is experience, and two, it's going to take time. Like it's very rare that someone's going to have that figured out right away, whether it's in high school or, you know, it might even take 3 years of college to figure that out. And one of the things that I try to say, you know, everyone's saying trust the process and all these things. I'm like, you honestly have to, I'm like, bet on yourself. Yeah. Like you just have to believe that you have that capacity, that mental aspect. And I think, you know, I'm trying to tell our guys coming into when they come back in August, I'm like, that's great. Like I said, I want you to be at 80 to 85% of your capacity. And I think there's in college and maybe high school, two things happen is you get guys at 95% of their fitness, or then you get guys at 50%. Yeah. And they both are going to do too much. And I think like you look at it in this term of, I told a guy last week is, you know, we look at, oh my gosh, I get so excited. If I miss a day in the summer, this workout, like, cause you're just thinking about that end goal. And I'm like, let's think in terms of like, we think in terms of a week, or I have to run 75 miles. I'm like, well, guess what? It doesn't have to be that though. I'm like, if this day you feel this, because that's not going to be every week. Most weeks you will hit it. But if it's just one out of like 12 or 14, you just gotta sit down and quantify it and keep nailing it into their head. And, you know, and it just becomes like, again, but I think betting on yourself, like you just have to hope and trust that you're going to have it when it counts, because a lot of people, your competitors will push too soon. And I think that's like one of the things that, again, that I kind of realized at Carroll, not to go back to it, but like, you know, we were one of those teams that always did kind of falter. And like a younger coach, as you're trying to prove yourself and like you're getting this great achievement in late September, early October. And guess what? Championships are won in November. That's true. And we would like kind of suck. Like in the years that were good, like Zach was there, and like you just gotta like bide your time. Cause I'm like, you gotta train pretty hard and pretty heavy to be good at something, right? For a long time. It's if you're PRing, how can we sustain that for 10 weeks? Like the answer is you can't. Right.
Right.
Do you like to race less then and just kind of focus more on training?
Yeah, I think that's one of the things. Again, it's funny hearing Joe talk and knowing what Joe Eby. because in many ways, I think we have similar ideologies, but in many ways we're different. And this is one that I think I kind of was cognizant before, but I think COVID just proved it. Like, I will say this. I don't know if we were as good individually or as a team without COVID. Yeah. Because what it did is allowed our guys to not only get close, and women as well, but really just train. I think you get better by training. Yeah. And then racing is just why you do it. You've heard this, obviously, like, you have so many bullets in the chamber, right? Like, I don't like to work out too hard very often, like 1 or 2 times, like a season or, whatever. I'm like, that's what racing are for. And like, you either have it or you don't. Like, if you're not a competitor, if you can handle that pressure, like, we got to work on that, obviously. But if you're doing it in training, like, it just, again, you have to trust it. Like, it's about feeling good when it matters. And like, you just got to continue to grind that in. I think just training and methodical, and to your point, it is boring at times. And I think some of the double T stuff is, I can't fully wrap my mind around it, because I think it's ultra boring. They do it like 2 times a week, every week, and that's just all you're doing. I'm like, that kind of takes a little, I think it should be a little fun and creative, but yeah.
That's interesting. So how have you worked it into your overall training? Have you worked the double T's in?
Yeah, I think we probably first experimented it with Alex's senior year at John Carroll. It was one of those things where this was a good complacency story, because he had won, I think, 5, or he was like on a roll. He had won 5 national championships in a row or something like that. And then indoor, he lost both. The 3K and 5K was runner up. I'm like, honestly, that's on me. It was on a little bit of both of us. Like, we're assuming, it was just going to happen. And I was like, all right. To me, training is simple. It's like, you always need to create the stimuli. Like, if you've adapted to it, we have to create a higher stimulus, right? And so this is kind of when that stuff is coming out. And I'm like, we dabbled with it. We did it 2 or 3 times. Yeah. And at Yale, I had a guy do it consistently the whole year. And it goes back to what Zach has said, is like, it depends. Yeah. Like, what do you need to do? Where are you at in your journey, in your development process? But it's, it's hard for me to narrow down, because I think it can work for a couple different types of individuals. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Like that miler, that needs to create more strength, and also that like 10K that need it as well. But I'm not 100% sold. I also think it's a little bit skewed, because you look, especially the milers that do it. Look at all of them. They are all very, very fast and have natural speed. Yeah. Right. So like, if you don't have that, right, like, good luck. Like, you need to touch that system a little bit. So it's a slippery slope.
Yeah. And I think, a lot of the professionals that are doing it, they didn't do it from, 14 on. Right. Like, it wasn't like they did it every single year for 8 years and all of a sudden they're great. They did it when they were like 23, 24, 25. And then they had built all of this previous data in their body where they developed those different systems. They created more of a broader scenario of like enzymatic activity. And then now all of a sudden they can just isolate that variable if that variable worked for them.
Yeah, absolutely. That's the principles of adaptation, right? Yeah. To your point, they've worked all that. And that's why I think it is hard I was thought about this, to be a professional coach. How do you keep leveling? How do you create this? Right. How do we level up and do more when you're already doing a lot? Like, or for some of these guys, it's right, just staying at the top is that difficult. Mm-hmm. But like, to your point, I think you're right on.
One of the things that Viho would always do, rest in peace, is that he would consistently go to the lab and do the true physiology testing. And then he would look at about 20 different variables. And then he would basically be like, all right, well, what's the weak link here? And then just take the concept of like, all ships rise with the tide. And then he would look at, all their different threshold pacing, the fractionalization, the lactate tolerance. And he would just kind of take all these variables into account and then just say, well, you look a little low here. So then let's isolate this. So the next training cycle will always have a foundation of touching all these different enzymes, but we might kind of like double up on a certain type of workout based on what we're seeing on the testing. Nowadays, I don't know how you do that. If you don't do the testing, I don't really know what they're doing, because, I even talking with like Kim Marreri on the podcast, it's like, they're pretty general. They basically just do hill strides and then, like 2-minute hill strides and then double tempos, and that's it. But he's running ridiculously fast off that. It's like, And is like, is that just because it's him and his physiology is really adapt to that and it works for him? Or is that just the way it is from now on?
Well, I think it's a little bit difficult for professionals because they're narrow, very specific. I think at the high school and college level, what I would do is like, you're running different disciplines. So if they're running a mile, 3K, 5K, 10K, like I'm seeing where their weaknesses are just by the relative times, right? And I would go to people are always like, oh, do you use Jack Daniels? Well, not really. I like to use that comparison chart to see where,
and then you just see where the gaps are.
And that's a dummy down version, right?
Yeah.
Like I'm not in the lab, but I'm trying to quantify myself. And it's like, all right, we need to get better here. Like your strength's not, you have to work on your threshold or your VO2 max or your speed. And then you narrow that, you go into that a little bit.
Exactly.
So
that's what
that makes sense. Yeah. So as we're kind of rounding third in the episode here, any final little tidbits?
Parting words. I don't know, Zach, help me out.
Oh man. I think I think when we boil everything down to racing, to training, it's more about the day-to-day process and more about the overall like excitement and the fun and having that team aspect around you when we're in high school and when we're in college for the most part, maybe when you get to those later years. But having that foundation and knowing that it is a process will help to have longer sustained success and outcome. I think not putting so much pressure on yourself to hit certain workouts, but rather like maximize on those recovery easy run days so you can come and hit those workouts, like have fun on those group runs, have fun with each other. Like that's the most important thing. And I think that's a huge component.
Well, you remember when we had Stephanie Bruce and we were talking with her at the women's 6K, she was like, she kind of just kept saying like, I just realized later in my career that nobody actually cares.
Yeah.
Like
you think they do, though.
You think they do, but they don't.
Right.
And it's like, maybe in an instance on a scroll on something, they're like, oh, well, they suck today. But it's like, sure, it's not like it keeps anybody up. It's not like anybody's going to really talk about it. It's like, just live your life and just keep enjoying the sport and, enjoy, like Viejo used to always say, the joy of effort and being active rather than just kind of like comparing yourself. And, in the end, none of us are really going to be ever world champions. And if we are, it's going to be fleeting because next year somebody's going to beat us. It's like, so really this sport is just about learning, how to like develop our whole life and how to live better and just in general. And it's not really just even about the sport itself. It's just as a means to educate us and challenge us ourselves in different ways.
Yeah. And I think just Zach kind of helped me collect my thoughts is like, it comes down to the why, right? And I think I never like to dictate the why. I think a lot of times you're looking for that in coaches, but I'm like, I found too, if you try to dictate towards my why, it's probably not going to work out because I'm just going to be pissed like 24/7, because I'm a coach. Like this is my job. And if you go into that, you're going to go with like a vendetta because they're not rising to your standards. So I'm like, I always want to know the why of like the team and the individual. And then I will coach you up to that. And the other important part is the reflection piece. Like that why can change, from what it was into high school into college. And I think, in Division III, like we've had people maybe step away their junior, senior year and they're like, oh, coach, I'm sorry. I'm like, your priorities changed.
Yeah.
Like that's life. Like that's fine, and I think understanding that piece. And I don't know that, one of the things that I'm pretty introspective, I guess, naturally. And so always kind of like, why are you doing this thing? And then that's going to be your focal point.
Yeah. Well, that's awesome.
I think the off season, like an off season is the most interesting time for me to think about. Like, I think it's just so interesting, like an off season from this perspective is that, and I'm guilty of it. I'm sure we're all guilty of it as former, competitive runners, is that you end that season thinking that next season is going to be even better.
Yeah.
Like if you won the national championship or you got third, you're like, man, we got the team. And it almost always never happens.
Yeah.
It never happens. And like one example is, I like the 4x4 at John Carroll, they like, at Myrtle Beach, they did well. They basically lost one person, but added a person and they came back and they're thinking that they're going to, and they had a hard time. They really had some adversity. And part of it goes, you can't start your next season right where you're at. The next season is a new season. It's a new phase.
So going into my senior year in cross, this was probably when I really like flipped the script as an athlete. Like the top guys of the team had graduated, and so it was sort of like, all right, well, who's going to be the next leader for this year? And summer training starts, and then really early on, and like early, like maybe mid June, I hear through the grapevine that one of the guys on my team was like saying that they're going to be the top person and that they were going to beat me and all this sort of stuff. And I was like, oh man, that is awesome. That's all I
Yeah.
needed to hear.
Yeah.
And then I just literally trained like a madman that summer,
Yeah.
just hell bent
That's
on
what
that
it's
one.
about.
Just because like Brian Stronero had said to somebody, I don't even know if he actually said it, but somebody had told me that he was thinking he was going to be a top dog. And I was like running insane volume, just insane workouts. And then we always started the season out with a 10-mile time trial. And the record was like 50-30. And one of the Kenyans had run the record. And it was like, you basically just had to break 60 to like be on the team. But like people took it serious at the top level. And then me and Brian, I was like, dude, I just was like, I'm going to take it to him. So I ran 50-14. And this dude ran 53 minutes. And which is still fast. 53 is still fast for like a college kid. But I was just like, I hammered him so hard. Little bit too try hard though.
You can't expect to come in and thinking that.
Well,
it's gonna be
I think
something.
that goes to managing expectations. And
Yeah.
I said like you have to bet on yourself, and that's why I told him like the process is so important. When people say that, I'm like, you have to embody it. I'm like, if you can go back 3 months and be like, I did everything in my power, and I knew that I did my best, and that doesn't mean you did it right.
Yeah,
because you're gonna learn things along the way. And I think again, why I try not to go towards goals or winning too much is that creates this undue pressure.
Yes.
And I've seen results like we've won, if individuals won or done well, when we didn't talk about it, didn't even think it was a possibility. And it happens because you're letting it be, right? It's the old adage of like, oh my God, I had such great workouts and this and that. And what, like, well, one, maybe you're doing too much, but two, you were loose in the workout, right? We need to recreate that in the race and even at the highest level.
But also there's a lot of times emotion wrapped up into this where it's like in my scenario, like I had the emotion of somebody saying that they were going to beat me early on, and I was like, dude, I'm going to put it to him. So then it's like a lot of times, like when you, like you said earlier, Kyle, like you're going to tap into somebody's why, like there's emotion there. And then if you tap into a goal, there's no emotion. It's a flat, like objective thing that doesn't tie into the psyche in the same way that like, you know, whatever their goal is and their specific thing that they're hung up on. Now, all of a sudden you can wrap emotion to that. And emotion is amazing. I mean, it's like why moms can pick cars off babies and stuff. It's like you can tie in some ridiculous factors there. And that's how people get to that next level is they can tap into that sort of different psyche about how to manage this whole extra side of us, which is the emotion.
Yeah. I think purpose too, right? Like that's what's stronger. Like a goal is just an obtainable outcome type thing. Like what's something that you can really get behind, like passion, desires, these strong emotions, right? 100%.
Yeah, that's awesome. All right. Well, thanks everybody for listening on another great episode here. And thanks Kyle for coming. You're welcome anytime.
Yeah,
so
fun.
We were lucky to get him here in studio now that he lives way out on the East Coast. So all right. Thanks for listening, everybody. All the best. Dr. Leo here. Be sure to check out my new book, Faster Without Fail, Your Guide to Overcoming Injuries and Running Faster Than Ever. It is now available on Amazon. You could read reviews on the Amazon. You can check out what other people have said about it. But basically, if you want to revolutionize your running form and better understand how to stay injury-free within the sport, this is your guide. Feel free to reach out and let us know what you think of the book. I would love to hear your feedback. But again, please check it out on Amazon. Faster Without Fail. Appreciate it. Dr. Leo here. If you want to catch me in another setting, be sure to check out my YouTube page, Running Rehab, where you will find exercises on how to stay healthy with running, how to improve your running form, and a bunch of other tips and tricks on how to get over common injuries. So again, Running Rehab.